My name is Jenny, and I'm diagnosed with anxiety. I first spoke to my doctor about the possibility of anxiety or depression when I was around 38 years old. But looking back, I realized that my journey started in college. I jumped from high school, where I knew so many people, to suddenly being in college in a new town with no friends. And that's when it really started to hit me how difficult these things were because of my anxiety. And in the down moments, that's when I would start to think, gosh, maybe I should start to talk to somebody about this. But right about that time, I'd have an upswing. And then that, oh, this is just normal thinking came in. This is just a phase. And every time I'd hit a point where I'd think, you should talk to someone about this, I would hit an upswing and talk myself out of it. Throughout my life, I didn't stick with things for a really long time. I'd get really involved, really into it, and then suddenly it just wasn't working for me anymore. Either I lost interest in it or it didn't make me happy, and I would just drop it and move on to the next thing. And it's okay if we move through different likes and dislikes, but it was such a pattern. That pattern finally broke when I was in my early 30s and I decided to take up horseback riding. I asked around and I found a recommendation of a trainer who actually works with mules, which I loved because I'd ridden down the Grand Canyon. And so I mustered up all the courage that I could, and I made an appointment to start my first lessons. And it was hard. There were days when I would have a lesson that didn't go well because I didn't get what my trainer was saying. And there were one or two or four or five times when, based on what happened in a lesson, my next lesson day, I had to fight to get myself back there. And I knew that if I didn't go to that lesson that day, I was not going to go back. That was just my history. And I just happened to love riding enough that it was the catalyst to keep me going. My mental health journey actually took the next step forward because of my riding lessons. I was at the barn and a friend who also took lessons came out, and she was just super bubbly and happy. And she had had some setbacks in her life that had made her a bit depressed. And she said she had talked to her doctor and got a prescription for something to help her with her depression. The light bulb clicked in my mind that there's this person just like me. She went to her doctor and got help. So the next time I went to my doctor, I asked about it. And after a lot of discussion, she suggested that I have anxiety that leads to depression rather than depression itself. How that worked for me was, let's say I wanted to go ride, but due to the day, I had anxiety over pieces of what riding would entail. So I would talk myself out of riding, and that would lead to a depressive episode. So I wasn't necessarily depressed. It was the anxiety that was leading to depression. Suddenly that little edge was gone, and I was able to push myself through things that would have stopped me in my tracks before. Even though there are a lot of ups and downs, because everyone has ups and downs, there aren't these major swings of anger or depression or simply being rolled up on the couch, unable to do anything. The general image of mental health varies for everyone, but there is this stigma that mental health is a weakness rather than a healthcare issue. If you break your arm, you go to the doctor. If you're having troubles mentally, if you're feeling anxious, if you're depressed, seek someone out, go see someone. I started to get those feelings when I was in college. and convinced myself that everything was fine. It was just a phase. And I didn't end up seeking care until I was in my late 30s. So if you have ever thought, gosh, maybe I should see a doctor about this, listen to that inner voice. It might know what it's talking about.